Today, as you will have seen, Nikolai Mladenov, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, briefed the Security Council by video conference just now. He noted that 2 days ago, 2 days ago, the U.S. President had announced the recognition by the U.S. of Jerusalem as the capital of State of Israel. The special envoy said that he is particularly concerned about the potential risk of a violent escalation and that his office continues to follow developments on the ground closely. Mr. Mladenov urged all political, religious, and community leaders to refrain from provocative action and rhetoric that could lead to escalation, and he called on all to exercise restraint and engage in dialogue. He added that the UN remains strongly committed to supporting all the efforts towards a negotiated two-state solution. This is the only way to achieve the legitimate national aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians, he said. And he once again echoed the Secretary General's words that there is no plan B for a two-state solution. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, is in Paris today, where she attended the meeting of the International Support Group for Lebanon at the Secretary General's behalf. In her remarks, she said that today's meeting shows that the international community remains united in support of the stability, security, sovereignty, and independence, as well as territorial integrity of Lebanon. She acknowledged the calm and measured response of the Lebanese leadership over the past several weeks, which served to unify the people of Lebanon. Over the weekend, she will travel onwards to Quito in Ecuador. The Secretary General earlier today spoke at the annual high-level pledging conference for the Central Emergency Response Fund, saying that since the fund was launched in 2005, the humanitarian needs have increased from $5.2 billion to over $24 billion today. Protracted conflict and the impact of natural disasters, compounded by structural fragility and chronic vulnerability, mean that more people now than ever survive on the brink of disaster. To keep pace, he said, the General Assembly adopted a resolution exactly a year ago calling for an expansion of the Central Emergency Response Fund's annual funding target from $450 million to $1 billion. He said that $1 billion CERF will help bolster contingency financing so that we're able to respond to humanitarian suffering quickly and in the future. The Secretary General announced a CERF allocation of $100 million to meet critical needs in 9 underfunded emergencies in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Uganda, Tanzania, Cameroon, Mali, the Philippines, Eritrea, Haiti, and Pakistan. And our humanitarian colleagues will issue a press release at the end of the pledging conference very shortly. Also, turning to the situation of the Rohingyas, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said that the number of Rohingya refugees who fled from Bangladesh into Myanmar since the 25th of August has now risen to 646,000 people. Although this is a jump from an estimated number of 626,000 we had earlier this week, the rise is due to a better assessment, according to our colleagues. The World Health Organization says that diphtheria is rapidly spreading in camps in Cox's Bazar. As of today, more than 110 people have contracted the disease, with 6 fatalities. Most of the people affected are children. The WHO says that to limit the spread of diphtheria, people must be relocated immediately. It's working with the Ministry of Health and other partners to scale up prevention. Also, routine immunization targeting children up to the age of 6 will begin tomorrow. Older age groups cannot be immunized currently due to a shortage of vaccines. And also on the same issue, our colleagues at UNHCR said today they are arranging to have talks with Bangladeshi authorities over an agreement between Myanmar and Bangladesh, which was signed last month, on the voluntary repatriation of Rohingya refugees. As the UNHCR has previously said, all refugees have a right to return, but this should happen voluntarily and only when people feel the time and circumstances are right. And as you recall, the UN was not a party to that agreement. Meanwhile, the Secretary General's Special Representative for Somalia, Michael Keating, today welcomed the signing of a power-sharing agreement between the Galmudug State President, Ahmed Duale Gele, and the leader of the Ahlu Sunnah wal Jama group, Sheikh Shakir. Mr. Keating said the agreement is a significant step towards forming a unified administration in the Galmudug and encouraged all stakeholders to maintain momentum to implement the decision. And UNICEF said today that 95 million children have not have births registered across sub-Saharan Africa, and they warn that if decisive action is not taken, these numbers will soar to 115 million by 2030. UNICEF called on African countries to prioritize birth registration as a first and critical step to a functional national civil registration and vital statistics system. Leila Pakala, UNICEF's regional director for Eastern and Southern Africa, warned that no proof of identity or of age or of nationality in an unregistered child is vulnerable to violations such as child marriage, child labor, and recruitment into armed forces. And I also want to flag that tomorrow is the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity for the victims of crime of genocide and of the prevention of this crime. In his message for the day, the Secretary General said that genocide is often the culmination of years of exclusion, denial of human rights, and other wrongs. Since genocide can take place in times of war and in times of peace, we must be ever vigilant. And tomorrow is also the International Anti-Corruption Day. This year's theme focuses on how corruption is one of the biggest impediments to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. More information is available online. Khalas. Khalas for me, not khalas for you. Let's go. Yeah.
A question about Yemen. After, reformer president get killed, then the Houthi group is starting going crazy and bomb the houses with the people inside. What's generally said about that in the UN?
We're obviously extremely concerned at the increased level of violence that we've seen since the death of the former president. It's incumbent on all the parties to respect not only civilians, but respect civilian infrastructure. The people of Yemen for so long now have had to suffer under continued violence in what, and the humanitarian disaster that we're facing is clearly, it's man-made. It's not an act of God. It's an act of men. And we want to see the violence stop. Thank you. Madam.
Regarding Jerusalem, to which extent do you think that the decision of the U.S. is going to influence their credibility as an honest peace broker?
Look, that's an analysis, I think, best left for you and for analysts. Our concern, as Mr. Mladenov said, is the threat of increased disruption and violence, the need to stop. We don't want to see any further unilateral decisions being taken by either side. And I think the Secretary General's message, as expressed through Mr. Mladenov, is one for calm and restraint, and ensuring that there's no escalation or inflammation of this already volatile situation. Luke,
sorry, a follow-up. But
yeah.
I mean, this process is going under your umbrella, so you must have also.
This process is sorry.
It's going, among others, under your umbrella. Mm-hmm. So you must have a position if a party is seen as not being an honest peace broker.
Well, the two parties involved here are the Israelis and the Palestinians, and the Secretary General's message is that there is no plan B for a two-state solution, and the two parties need to come together to solve and agree on a number of issues, including final status issues like Jerusalem. Luke.
Thanks. Are you aware, on the DRC, are you aware if any of these drone or UAS systems that MONUSCO possesses were mobilized at any point during this attack? And I guess more broadly, given, as the two gentlemen explained, it's sort of a jungle area with pretty low visibility, if there's any thinking that amid all these threats against peacekeepers, those aerial systems might be turned on the peacekeepers as a means of protection in addition to local populations?
What do you mean turned as a mean of?
Used to monitor the area around.
Well, obviously, they are the use of unarmed aerial vehicles is something that we're pursuing a number of missions. But as you said, the terrain is such that in some parts of the areas in which we operate, it's not that as effective as we would say in a desert or in a desert-like environment. I'm not aware that any of these things were deployed during the attack. I think there was issue of communications between the base and headquarters during the attack. Mr. Lee.
Some other DRC comments, questions I wanted to ask. One is, you'd said earlier on another attack on UN personnel that the UN is trying to, I guess, cooperate in investigating, the killing of the expert Sharp and Catalan.
Yeah.
It was said that a UN team is going there to work with the,
Yeah.
have they gone yet?
Yeah,
What was-
we confirmed it. I think there is Judge Petit, the Canadian judge, who was dispatched. I'm not sure if he's still there, but he went there about a week ago. And we've also dispatched a number of technical experts to support the investigation being done, the criminal investigation being done by the DRC authorities.
And relatedly, there was in September there was an attack by the Congolese military forces themselves on Burundian refugees. 36 Burundian refugees were killed, and I think it's Kamanyola. And I'm wondering, it was said at the time that the UN was going to follow up and
Yeah, I think we announced an inquiry. I'll have to check what the status is of that investigation.
Okay, and I wanted to, this is something I'm hoping maybe there's some update on. I'd asked yesterday Farhan about the Cameroonian government's detention of a U.S.-based writer and activist, Patrice Ganon. It's good now. I mean, it's become, given that he was sort of disappeared off a plane, many groups, including PEN and various press freedom groups, are speaking about it. I'm wondering if the UN is using any of its access with the Cameroonian government to ask where this writer may have been taken.
I will check. Okay.
Can I ask one other thing? This is
of
kind
course,
of
it's Friday. And we're
all right.
Yeah.
And this had to. I wanted to I just want to get the explanation of it. In the past, events in which the Secretary General, including the previous one and even this one, has sworn in officials to swear in their allegiance to the global public, have always been open press. Now they're not. And so I wanted to know, I came in early for the one with Alison Smale and 2 others and was told it's closed, but I just wanted to know, given particularly the purpose of the ceremony, it's not just a handshake,
Yeah.
it's actually what's the reasoning behind
I
it?
think we're making some adjustments, and obviously there was the UN photographers there and UN TV, so that material is available to everybody.
But what, in
Thank
terms
you.
of the adjustment, what's
Thank you. Brendan, up to you.
why